Hello, and welcome to TerraNash. I'm Aiden, your narrator for tonight. As we begin this journey together, let's take a moment to set aside the worries of the day. Let your body sink into comfort, your breath slow to a gentle rhythm, and your thoughts drift like stardust through the sky. Tonight's story is called The Dancing Nebula, a tale set in the quiet corners of the cosmos, where a radiant nebula named Aurora glides across the galaxy, painting the stars with color and joy. When a young comet named Cosmo crosses her path, he discovers a simple but powerful truth. When we let ourselves shine with joy, we light up the universe around us. So wherever you are, curled under the covers, lying beside a little one, or just stealing a moment of quiet, allow this story to carry you far beyond the stars, into a space where wonder still dances, softly and endlessly. And before we begin, we'd love to hear from you in the comments. Where in the world are you listening from tonight? What helps you feel at peace as you get ready for bed? Your stories help us shape ours. Now, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and let the journey begin. In the far reaches of the cosmos, beyond the spiral arms of well-known galaxies and the chatter of comets racing to nowhere, there lived a nebula named Aurora. She did not speak in words. She did not rush. She simply moved, slowly, softly, through the stars, her wisps of color trailing like a painter's brush through the night. She was made of gas and starlight, of old dust and new dreams. Her form shimmered in hues of lavender and deep turquoise, woven with strands of gold that flickered faintly with each graceful turn. Unlike the sunbursts and loud novas that erupted in distant corners of the sky, Aurora made no noise. Her gift was subtle, gentle, a dance that unfolded in silence. Every movement of hers felt like a lullaby, a drift here, a ripple there, spinning arcs of color that only the stillest of hearts could truly notice. Her glow was not the kind that demanded attention. It invited it, softly and patiently. Many stars never paused long enough to watch, but those who did were changed. They found their brightness burn steadier, their twinkle more certain, just by basking near her warmth. Aurora didn't dance for applause. She danced because it felt right, because moving through the stars with joy in her heart filled the endless night with something beautiful. But in quiet moments, even she wondered, did it matter? With so many celestial bodies blazing and bursting and flying past, who would ever stop to watch a nebula sway? Still, she continued. She floated past sleeping planets and glowing belts of asteroids, past lonely moons and frozen silence, always with grace. Her colors glowed softly against the velvet dark, painting the universe with beauty that no one had asked for, but that she offered anyway. And so, without a sound, the nebula danced, unseen, unhurried, unwavering, not yet knowing that her light was about to change everything. Far from the steady orbits of planets and the quiet burn of old stars, a comet zipped across the darkness with a trail of icy sparkles tumbling behind him. His name was Cosmo, and unlike Aurora, he was full of energy, questions, and a restless need to explore. He darted through asteroid belts like a stone skipping across a pond, spiraled through rings of gas giants, and looped around moons just to feel the thrill of the curve. He'd seen suns explode and black holes hum, but none of it ever held his attention for long. He was always moving, always searching, though he couldn't quite say what for. One evening, as he skimmed the outer veil of a quiet galaxy, something made him slow. Not a pull, exactly. More like a feeling, a softness in the airless silence, a shimmer that didn't shout for attention, but whispered gently to his stardust trail. He turned, coasting on a slow arc, and there she was, Aurora. She drifted in spirals that made no sound, her form folding and unfolding like silk in water. Her colors glowed gently, weaving patterns through space that looked like they had been there forever. Cosmo blinked, if a comet could blink, and stared. He had never seen anything move like that. There was no urgency in her, no rush to arrive anywhere, just joy. "Are you moving on purpose?" Cosmo called out, his voice like a wind chime of light. Aurora turned slowly, her edges curling inward like petals, and offered a smile that wasn't quite seen, but felt. "I am," she replied, her voice more vibration than sound. "I'm dancing." "Dancing," Cosmo echoed, trailing a slow loop around her. "But why? There's no music, no audience." Aurora turned again, her colors deepening with calm. "There doesn't need to be," she said. "When I move this way, I feel light, like I'm part of something bigger. I shine brighter when I dance." Cosmo wasn't sure what to say. He had always flown with purpose, towards something, away from something, always measuring his journey in speed. He hovered in place now, his trail slowing into a gentle drift. Aurora turned once more, casting a ribbon of amber light toward him. "Would you like to try?" she asked, not forcing, only offering. The young comet hesitated. His icy surface shimmered in the glow of her motion. He wasn't sure if he knew how to move without racing. but there was something inviting in the way she moved. An ease, a peace he had never felt. So, with a tiny spin, Cosmo twirled beside her. It wasn't graceful, not yet, but it was real. And the stars around them began to shimmer just a little brighter. At first, Cosmo's movements were jerky, more like tumbles than twirls. He spun too fast, looped too wide, and occasionally bumped into drifting bits of ancient dust. But Aurora didn't laugh. She simply swayed beside him, a quiet current of calm for him to follow. "Slower," she whispered gently, "not with force, with feeling." Cosmo tried again. He arced through space in a wide spiral, letting his icy tail drift behind him like a ribbon in the wind. This time, something felt different. He wasn't pushing. He was listening to the silence, to his own rhythm, to the way space seemed to pulse softly around Aurora's glow. As they moved together, something began to change in the sky. The stars closest to them started twinkling in a soft rhythm, like tiny lanterns nodding along to an unseen melody. Gases shimmered in new shades of blue and violet, and even distant moons seemed to turn their faces slightly toward the pair. Aurora's voice hummed through the space between them. "The universe responds to joy," she said. "When we move from our hearts, we light things that might never have known they could shine." Cosmo blinked again, slowly turning. "I thought the universe only moved when something big happened. A supernova, a black hole, a collision." Aurora swirled past him, her light trailing like dew on moonbeams. "Sometimes," she said, "it moves for something small, something kind, a smile, a dance, a little comet trying something new." Cosmo's icy heart, long used to solitude and speed, warmed in a way he didn't expect. He twirled again, this time not to impress, not to escape, but simply to feel. The stars seemed to breathe with them now, a slow, dreamy pulse that echoed their movements. He looked around and noticed faint trails of light forming where they danced, curves of color hanging gently in the dark, like notes on a sheet of music. The two of them had written something into the sky, and though no one had asked for it, it was beautiful. For the first time, Cosmo wasn't thinking about where he was going. He wasn't racing ahead or counting how far he'd traveled. He was simply here, moving beside Aurora, watching the cosmos respond to their quiet joy. He smiled, a quiet sparkle flickering across his icy surface. "Maybe this is what I was searching for," he said softly. Aurora didn't reply with words. She only drifted closer, turned once more, and together they danced, 2 points of light, sharing the stillness between stars. As the dance continued, something wondrous began to unfold around them. The stars, once quiet observers in the distant dark, now shimmered with a new kind of awareness. Their glow shifted in time with the rhythm of Aurora's movements and the cautious twirls of young Cosmo. It was as if the stars were whispering to one another, leaning in to watch the delicate harmony between nebula and comet. Cosmo noticed it first. "Do you feel that?" he asked, his voice trailing like mist. "It's like they're listening." Aurora's colors deepened to a warm rose and soft jade, the emotional equivalent of a smile. "They are," she said. "Stars don't speak in words, but they remember beauty. When we dance from the heart, they remember that too." He turned in slow orbit, watching the lights ripple through the surrounding constellations. Some stars pulsed gently, others flickered in slow patterns like breathing. A pale blue star nearby even sent out a shimmer of dust that spiraled briefly, mimicking Cosmo's last clumsy twirl. "They're copying me," he whispered. "They're echoing you," Aurora said. "The universe mirrors what we give it. Even your first little spin left a mark. You didn't notice, but it noticed you." Cosmo was quiet, letting the idea settle like snowfall. All his life he had zoomed across space, fast, bright, but fleeting. He never stayed anywhere long enough to leave anything behind. But now, the stars themselves were reflecting his light, remembering his movement, welcoming his presence. He spiraled gently, a long, slow curve beside Aurora, and a wave of soft starfire shimmered in response, cascading through the distant sky like a cosmic sigh. "Is this joy?" Cosmo asked. Aurora paused her motion and drifted beside him. "Yes," she said, her colors glowing softly against his icy trail. "Joy doesn't always feel loud. Sometimes it feels like peace. Sometimes it looks like quiet stars remembering your name." Cosmo felt something shift deep within, like a piece of him had been waiting all this time to be still enough to listen, and now it had finally heard the universe breathe back. They danced again, slower now, moving not for show, but for the shared stillness between them. The space around them felt warmer, kinder, even though it was the same dark galaxy it had always been. And in that quiet place, the stars whispered their thanks, not in speech, but in light. Cosmo had never felt more at peace. He drifted beside Aurora, tracing graceful arcs through the stars, his icy trail gleaming with soft blues and silvers. The galaxy felt like a vast canvas, and together they painted it with joy, color, and quiet wonder. The stars responded with a kind of reverence, gentle pulses, playful twinkles, and soft spirals of dust, like laughter in slow motion. But peace in the cosmos is never permanent. From the edge of a forgotten system, a coolness crept in, not the calming stillness of night, but a deeper kind of quiet, heavier and unfeeling. The stars nearby dimmed slightly, colors faded, and from this hush emerged a slow, curling darkness. Umbros, a dense, drifting cloud of cosmic shadow, old as forgotten galaxies and still as unspoken thoughts. He wasn't evil, just certain that movement stirred chaos, that light was frivolous, and that joy was an indulgence stars could not afford. As he drew closer, the stars pulled their light away, not in fear, but out of habit. Umbros had long ago taught them to stay still in his presence. Aurora paused mid-drift, her colors paling like a watercolor under moonlight. Cosmo, unsure of the new presence, slowed beside her. "What is that?" he asked softly. "Umbros," Aurora murmured. "He is shadow and silence. He believes the universe is best left untouched. No ripples, no songs, no dancing." Umbros's voice came not as sound, but as a vibration in the space around them, low and heavy. "You glow too brightly," he said, drifting closer. "You stir the stillness. You wake stars that should sleep." Cosmo hovered closer to Aurora, his tail tucking in slightly. "But we're not hurting anyone," he said. "We're just dancing." "Dancing invites attention," Umbros replied. "And attention invites chaos. The void watches. The more you shine, the more you risk drawing it nearer." Aurora dimmed, her glow softening to a pale blue. She didn't argue. She simply floated still, as if considering the warning. Cosmo looked at her, startled. "You're not going to stop, are you?" She didn't answer. The stars, too, grew still. Their shimmer became steady and quiet, no longer responding to Cosmo's curves or Aurora's colors. The warmth faded from the sky, replaced by a slow, stretching silence. Cosmo floated alone for a moment, the glow from his tail flickering uncertainly. He looked at Aurora, her light now barely visible. He looked at the stars, watching, waiting, and he looked at Umbros, whose presence dulled everything it touched. For the first time since he'd arrived, Cosmo felt small again, not in wonder, but in worry. He twirled once, slowly, hoping to stir even the faintest shimmer. But this time, the stars did not respond. Aurora drifted in silence. Her glow, once vibrant and full of movement, had dulled to a soft grey mist. The delicate ribbons of rose, violet, and emerald that once painted the stars had faded like a memory too long unspoken. Around her, the cosmos seemed to pause. No shimmer, no gentle ripples in the stardust sea, only stillness. Cosmo hovered nearby, uncertain and quietly aching. The absence of color felt colder than space itself. He tried to dance again, just a simple twirl like before, but it felt hollow. Without Aurora's light, the movement didn't shine the same. It wasn't just the motion that mattered, it was the sharing of it. His tail left no shimmer, and the stars gave no reply. "Aurora," he said gently, "are you still in there?" She responded, but her voice was dim, like a thought echoing from somewhere far away. "Perhaps Umbros is right. Maybe my dance brings more risk than beauty. Maybe the stillness is safer for everyone." Cosmo's heart sank. He thought of that first moment, how he had slowed down to watch her dance, how the stars had pulsed with quiet joy. He remembered how even his awkward first twirls had been met with light and warmth. That feeling wasn't dangerous. It was alive. It was true. "I used to race through galaxies," Cosmo said, turning slowly beside her. "Chasing speed, chasing something I couldn't name. But then I saw you, and for the first time, I felt like I belonged somewhere." Aurora didn't move. "You didn't ask anything of me," Cosmo continued, "but you showed me something. That joy isn't something we have to earn. It's something we can give freely, and it matters." She flickered faintly, a gentle glow, barely there. "I know it's quiet now," he said, glancing at the dim stars, "but I felt them listening. They didn't just see you, they needed you. Maybe they forgot how to glow until you reminded them." Aurora quivered in the silence, her edges stirring like a sheet of silk touched by a breeze. She wanted to believe him, but Umbros's shadow still loomed like a cloud over her thoughts. Cosmo floated closer and whispered, "Don't let fear steal your light." Then, very gently, he twirled, one slow, deliberate spin, letting the motion rise not from habit or hope, but from love. A single star, far in the distance, flickered in reply. Just one. But it was enough. Aurora's light stirred. Her grey tones warmed to lavender once more. Not brilliant, not bold, just returning. And Cosmo smiled, because light, even in its smallest flicker, always finds its way back. The single flicker from the distant star lingered like a whisper in the stillness. It was soft, so soft that one could almost miss it. But Cosmo didn't. He turned toward it, heart full of quiet hope. Aurora noticed it too. She stirred faintly, her edges pulsing with the barest shimmer of lilac. It was like her body remembered something her mind was still unsure of. A warmth, a rhythm, the memory of movement. Cosmo floated beside her, not rushing, not pushing, simply being there. You used to move like starlight on water, he said gently. You taught me how to slow down and listen. You made the sky sing. Aurora exhaled a soft sigh of light, barely visible, like a candle remembering its own flame. I was afraid, she said at last, her voice the hush of a breeze across silence. What if dancing really does draw the void? What if joy puts others in danger? Cosmo's gaze didn't leave her. What if joy is what holds the darkness back? Aurora paused. Around them, the stars held their breath. You said the stars remember beauty, he continued. Maybe they need it. Maybe they shine not just because they burn, but because something moved them, once, to glow. Aurora's light pulsed again, brighter this time. A soft rose spread through her core, curling out in tendrils of pastel gold, like a dream returning after a long night. And then she moved, just slightly. A turn, a gentle arc through the dark. The stars closest to her shimmered in response. One, then two, then a dozen, like seeds catching the sun. They remembered. She twirled again, slower this time, but with intention. Her light spread through the cosmos like ink in water, blooming softly outward. And Cosmo, watching her come alive again, felt his own trail glow with brighter blues and silver sparks. You never stopped being light, he whispered. You just forgot you were allowed to shine. Aurora moved beside him now, their patterns forming a quiet waltz in the void. Around them, the galaxy stirred. Stars blinked in patterns. Rings of gas shimmered faintly. Even the comets nearby, long silent, slowed to watch. It wasn't grand, it wasn't loud, but it was alive. The memory of movement had returned, not to impress, not to be seen, but simply because joy was meant to be shared. And in their slow, cosmic dance, the sky began to remember how to feel again. Aurora's colors unfurled like petals opening at dawn, gentle waves of rose gold, deep blue, and soft green spilling across the sky in every direction. Her light no longer hesitated. It shimmered with quiet confidence, not for applause, but because it felt true. Cosmo drifted beside her, beaming with joy, his icy tail sparkling like newly fallen snow. He didn't need to twirl fast anymore. Every movement now had meaning, even the smallest glide. Together, they spun through the darkness with ease, their dance steady and serene. And the universe, so often vast and silent, responded. A slow pulse began to echo through the stars. At first, it was subtle, a gentle brightness in distant constellations, a rhythm among lonely asteroids. But then, one by one, Other celestial bodies joined in. A sleepy moon turned slowly in time with Aurora's spirals. A ringed planet far below cast waves of light across its surface, as if swaying. A group of dust-speckled satellites danced in small arcs, twinkling like lanterns strung across a still night. Even a distant meteor, once cold and forgotten, warmed as it traced lazy loops through the starlit sky. Cosmo watched in awe. "They're dancing with us." Aurora's voice hummed like a lullaby. "They always wanted to. Sometimes it just takes one light to remind the others it's safe to shine." For a moment, the galaxy felt like a single, breathing thing. The stars pulsed in slow rhythm. Nebulae painted soft colors across the black. Dust clouds shimmered instead of hiding. The silence of space no longer felt empty. It felt full. And from that fullness came something unexpected. A quiet flicker on the edge of the horizon. Umbros. The shadow had returned, drifting slowly toward the light. But this time, he did not loom. He did not silence the stars. He moved without threat, as though unsure of what he was seeing. Aurora slowed her dance. Cosmo did too. They didn't run. They didn't hide. Umbros hovered close, his surface shifting like smoke. For a long moment, he said nothing. But then, he shimmered, only faintly, a soft flicker of deep violet, like ink catching starlight. Aurora tilted gently toward him. "You feel it too, don't you?" Umbros pulsed, once, then twice, and something like a sigh passed through his form. "I didn't know shadow could reflect light," he said. Cosmo twirled beside him. "It always could. Maybe it just needed a dance to remember." And in that moment, Umbros didn't dissolve or disappear. He stayed. He hovered at the edge of the glow, and though he remained dark, his edges rippled with color, deep hues of indigo, soft glints of bronze, like the universe had revealed a secret even he had forgotten. And so, they danced again. This time not as two, but as many. And the stars watched, and remembered, and glowed. The galaxy, once quiet and still, had become a living constellation of motion and light. What began as a simple dance between Aurora and Cosmo had awakened something ancient, something timeless, a memory within the stars themselves. The cosmos wasn't meant to be silent. It was meant to feel. Now, comets spun more slowly. Moons shifted their shadows to catch the shimmer. Even the dark dust between stars had begun to sparkle with slivers of color. But what no one expected was Umbros. The shadow, once thought to be only cold silence, began to change. He still moved slowly, cautiously, as if unsure whether he belonged. But as the light reached him, it did not vanish like before. Instead, it filtered through him, and within that swirling darkness, something was stirring. Colors that had never been seen in him before. Not bright like Aurora's, or playful like Cosmo's, but rich, deep violet, stormy copper, a smoky silver blue. Shadows, not as absence, but as dimension, as depth. Cosmo turned to Aurora, voice wide with wonder. He's glowing. Aurora's light curved toward Umbros like a ribbon floating on wind. He always could, she said. But sometimes it takes stillness longer to remember the dance. Umbros hovered, quiet. Then, in a slow, almost reverent motion, he began to spiral. Not a perfect twirl, not yet. But enough. A turn of willingness. A movement not born of joy, but of curiosity. The stars responded. Not with brightness, but with balance. The galaxy didn't become louder. It became richer. The colors, the movement, the harmony, it all deepened. For even in joy, shadows have their place. They give contrast to the glow. And that was the twist no one had seen coming. Umbros had not come to destroy the light. He had come to understand it. Where once he believed silence was safety, he now saw that stillness could exist within joy. That motion need not be chaos. It could be grace. And that light, when given freely, did not steal from darkness. It illuminated what had long been hidden. Cosmo spun near him, smiling. Even shadows can dance. Umbros didn't speak, but he pulsed softly in reply. A shimmer of dark gold rippled through him, slow and beautiful. Aurora, glowing brighter now than ever before, drifted beside them both. And together, the three moved. Not in perfect unison, but in perfect understanding. The stars above and below twinkled in soft waves, like applause felt in the bones of the sky, because the twist in the stars wasn't just that Umbros had changed. It was that he had always had the potential to. He simply needed to be invited to the dance. And so, in the quiet stretch of space where few had ever lingered, a new kind of movement was born. Not a dance of performance, but of presence. Aurora glided in soft, swirling arcs, her colors blooming once more into hues of dawn light and moon shadow. Cosmo followed with joyful spins, his icy tail trailing stardust like laughter. And Umbros, still shadow, still silence, now flowed with deep, graceful turns that made even the distant stars lean closer. They didn't lead or follow. They simply moved together, each in their own rhythm, each bringing something only they could offer: light, play, depth. And in this harmony, the universe responded. The stars shimmered in slow waves, not to outshine, but to echo. Planets, long still in their rotation, began to spin with new grace. Nebulae across distant galaxies brightened for no reason other than joy. Even the quiet comets, who had once raced alone, now curved softly through space, weaving their own trails beside the others. Cosmo smiled as he twirled near Aurora. "Do you think it will last?" Aurora turned slowly, her glow calm and steady. "Maybe not always. Light dims, shadows return, but the memory of this," her voice was as soft as starlight on snow, "the universe never forgets when it is loved." Umbros drifted past them both, leaving a quiet ripple of deep color in his wake. He said nothing, but in his silence was peace. Cosmo looked out at the sky, now alive with shimmering motion. "I thought I had to move fast to matter," he said. "But I think I was always meant to glow slowly." Aurora smiled. "And joy was never about how brightly you shine. It's about how softly you share your light." They danced on, not for anyone, not for attention, but because it felt right, because it brought warmth, because it reminded the stars, who watched in silence, that even in the vastness of space, something as small as a single movement, a single moment of joy, could change everything. And as the last stardust of the night swirled gently across the sky, the universe closed its eyes, not to sleep, but to dream, of ribbons of light, of comet trails that laughed, of shadows that shimmered, of a nebula that danced, and of how, in one quiet corner of the cosmos, joy became a language every star could understand.